The space station called Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was massive, bigger than any city on Earth. Thousands of ships came and went every day, carrying traders, diplomats, and travelers from 100 different worlds. Lights blinked across its surface like fireflies, and inside its metal walls, millions of beings lived and worked together. Stood at the window of the human ship and watched the station grow larger. She was 26 years old, with short black hair and calm dark eyes. She wore the simple gray uniform of a security officer, and she stood very still, like a cat watching a bird. Most people thought she was quiet and shy. They were wrong about the shy part. Behind her, Ambassador Park was talking to the rest of the delegation. He was a tall man in his 50s, with gray in his hair and a gentle smile. He had spent 30 years as a diplomat, and he believed that words could solve any problem. Respected him, but she also knew that words did not always work. The delegation was small. There was Lee, a young woman who spoke 12 alien languages. There was an engineer who could fix anything with enough time and tools. There was a doctor with steady hands and kind eyes. There was who handled communications and had grown up hunting in the mountains of his homeland. And there was Shin, their pilot, whose reflexes were faster than anyone had ever met. 7 humans. That was all. They were the first official diplomatic team that Earth had ever sent to Prime. The ship docked with a soft thump, checked her equipment one last time. She carried no weapons. The station had strict rules about weapons, and humans were new here. They had to follow the rules, even if did not like them. The airlock opened and the smell hit her first. It was strange, a mix of flowers and metal and something she could not name. The air was thinner than Earth's air and it was warm, adjusted quickly. She had trained for this. A group of aliens waited for them in the docking bay. They were the species that controlled this part of space. They were tall and thin, with silver skin and large dark eyes. They moved gracefully, like dancers, and they wore robes of blue and gold. Everything about them looked beautiful and perfect. The leader of the group stepped forward. His name was, and he was an ambassador-like, but where was warm and friendly was cold. He looked at the humans like a man might look at insects. "Welcome to Prime," said. His voice was smooth and musical, but there was no warmth in it. "We are pleased to receive the delegation from Earth." The pause before the word "pleased" told everything she needed to know. They did not want them here. They were only tolerating the humans because the Galactic Council had ordered it. Stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Ambassador. We are honored to be here. Earth hopes to build a strong friendship with the consortium." His lips curved in what might have been a smile. "Yes, Earth. A small world in a distant arm of the galaxy. We have read about it. A young species, yes. Only recently discovered space travel." "We are young," agreed, "but we learn quickly." "I am sure you do," turned and gestured for them to follow. "Come, we have prepared quarters for you." They walked through the station and watched everything. The corridors were wide and clean, filled with aliens of many different species. Some looked like the tall and elegant. Others were short and round, or covered in scales, or had too many arms. A few looked at the humans with curiosity. Most did not look at them at all. Notice something else. The station had different levels. The upper levels were bright and beautiful, with gardens and fountains and restaurants. But as they walked, they went down. The corridors became narrower. The lights became dimmer. The smell changed from flowers to rust. They stopped in front of a door on the lowest level. The metal was stained, and the lights flickered. "Your quarters," said. "I apologize for the location. The upper levels are full. I am sure you understand." Smile did not change, but saw his hands tighten behind his back. "Of course, we appreciate any accommodation." Nodded, he turned to leave, then stopped. "I almost forgot. A word of warning. This level borders the free zone." He said the words like they tasted bad. "Traders and others live there. The station guard does not patrol it often. I suggest you stay in your quarters after dark." "Thank you for the warning," said. When was gone, looked at the door with worried eyes. "The free zone, what does that mean?" Laughed, but there was no humor in it. "It means the lawless sector, pirates, smugglers, criminals. They put us next to the bad neighborhood." "On purpose," added quietly. "They want us uncomfortable. Maybe they hope we will leave." Sighed, "Perhaps, but we are not leaving. We have a mission and we will complete it." He opened the door. "Let us see our new home." The quarters were small. There were 7 rooms, each barely big enough for a bed. The common area had a table and chairs, but 2 of the chairs were broken. The walls were gray metal, scratched and dented. A strange smell came from the ventilation system. Wrinkled her nose. "I will need to clean this before anyone gets sick." Tested the lights. Half of them did not work. "I can fix these," she said. "Maybe, if I can find parts." Walked to the wall that faced the free zone. She pressed her hand against it and felt the vibration of the station around her. Through that wall, just a few hundred meters away, was a place where the rules did not apply, where dangerous beings did dangerous things. She turned to, "We need to be careful here." Nodded, "I know, but we cannot show fear. If we act afraid, they will treat us like prey." "I am not afraid," said. "I am concerned. There is a difference." Looked at her, concerned about what? About the fact that they do not understand what we are. Sat down on one of the working chairs. When talked about Earth, he called it a small world, a young species. He thinks we are weak. Grinned, "Weak? Has he seen our planet?" "No, he has only read reports, and the reports do not tell the truth." Looked at her hands. They were small hands but strong, hands that had trained since childhood, hands that knew how to survive. "Earth is a class 12. Do any of you know what that means?" Sat down across from her. "I have heard the term, but I thought the galactic classification only went to class 7. "It does, because the aliens who made the system never imagined a world like Earth." His voice was calm, almost gentle. "They never imagined a world with earthquakes and volcanoes and hurricanes and tsunamis, a world where the ground shakes and the sky burns and the water rises up to swallow cities, a world where every animal is either hunting you or being hunted by something else, a world where even the plants can kill you." The room was silent. "We survived that world," continued. "For millions of years, Earth tried to kill us and we survived. We did not just survive. We conquered. We became the apex predators of the deadliest planet in the galaxy. And now we are here in this station, surrounded by species who have never known real danger, who have never had to fight for every breath." She stood up and looked at the wall again. Beyond it, the criminals of the free zone were going about their business. They thought they were dangerous. They had no idea. "They put us here to scare us," said. "They put us next to the bad neighborhood because they thought we would run away. They do not understand that we come from a worse neighborhood, the worst neighborhood in the galaxy." Put his hand on her shoulder. "I appreciate your confidence, but we are here for diplomacy, not fighting." "I know," turned to face him, "and I hope it stays that way. But if trouble comes, I want everyone to be ready, because trouble will not find what it expects." That night lay in her small bed and listened to the sounds of the station. She heard distant music, strange and alien. She heard the hum of machinery. She heard footsteps in the corridor outside, quick and quiet. She did not sleep. She rarely slept deeply. Earth had taught her that danger came when you were not watching, so she watched, and she waited. Somewhere in the free zone, someone was watching too. Someone was wondering about the new arrivals. Someone was making plans. Almost smiled. Let them plan. Let them think the humans were soft and weak and easy. Let them underestimate the children of Earth. She had given her first warning already in the way she walked, in the way she watched. Most species did not notice. Most species were not paying attention. But when the second warning came, everyone would notice. Everyone would pay attention. Because the second warning would not be quiet. The second warning would not be subtle. The second warning would leave them speechless. 3 days passed on Prime. The human delegation tried to do their job. Ambassador requested meetings with the council. He was polite. He was patient. He followed every rule. They made them wait. Every morning, a small alien named came to their quarters. He was their liaison, the person assigned to help them, was short and nervous, with pale purple skin and large, worried eyes. He worked for Ambassador, and he was clearly uncomfortable with his assignment. "I apologize," said every day. "The council is very busy, perhaps tomorrow." On the third day, they finally got a meeting. Not with the council, but with a group of minor officials. The meeting room was cold and empty, and the officials looked at the humans with bored expressions. Ambassador presented Earth's proposal: trade agreements, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. He spoke well, with passion and sincerity. The officials listened. Then one of them, a tall with silver robes, leaned forward. "Tell me," the official said, "what does Earth have that we would want?" Smiled, "We have unique resources, new perspectives, fresh ideas, and we are willing to share our technology." The officials exchanged glances. A few of them laughed softly. "Your technology," the tall one said. "You have been in space for less than 200 years. We have been in space for 20,000. What could you possibly offer us?" "Progress is not always about time," said carefully. "Sometimes a new approach can solve problems that old methods cannot." "Perhaps," the official's voice dripped with doubt, "but we must be careful. Your species is fragile. You require sleep. You eat dead organisms. You evolved alongside venomous creatures and infectious diseases. Frankly, it is amazing you survived long enough to reach the stars." Stood in the corner of the room, watching. Her face showed nothing, but inside she was counting the insults, counting the disrespect, counting the ways these soft, comfortable aliens dismissed her people. She had seen the reports on it was a paradise. The temperature never changed. The seasons were gentle. The animals were all herbivores. There were no storms, no earthquakes, no volcanoes. They had evolved on a world that loved them. They had no idea what evolution on Earth meant. The meeting ended with nothing decided. The officials promised to consider the proposals, thanked them with dignity, and led his team back to their quarters. That night went for a walk. It was against orders, had told everyone to stay inside after dark, but was young and restless, and the walls of their small quarters were closing in on her. She thought she would just walk down the corridor and back, just stretch her legs, just breathe air that did not smell like rust and old metal. She made it 50 meters before they found her. There were 5 of them, a reptilian species known throughout the station for violence. They were large, with green-black scales and yellow eyes. They wore no uniforms, just leather and metal, and they carried weapons at their belts. The leader stepped in front of. He was the biggest, with scars across his face and teeth like knives. "A human," he said. His voice was rough like stones grinding together. "Out alone at night in our territory." His heart beat fast, but she kept her voice steady. "I am a diplomat. I have permission to be here." "Permission?" The leader laughed, and his companions laughed with him. "Who gives permission in the free zone? We take what we want here, and right now we want to talk to you." "About what?" "About your ship, your technology, your credit accounts." The leader stepped closer. "You are new here. You do not understand how things work, so let me explain. You pay us and we let you live. Simple." Took a step back. "I will report this to station security." "Station security does not come here." The leader's yellow eyes gleamed. "No one helps you here. You are alone, little human. You are prey." He reached for her arm. A voice came from the shadows behind them. "Let her go." They turned, stepped out of the darkness. She was smaller than all of them, shorter by a head and lighter by half. She wore her gray uniform and her hands were empty. Her face was calm, almost peaceful. The leader stared at her for a moment, then laughed. "Another one? Good. We can take both of you." "You will not take anyone," walked forward slowly. "This is your warning. Walk away now. Leave us alone, and nothing bad will happen to you." The other laughed. One of them pointed at her. "Look at her. She is tiny. What is she going to do? Talk us to death?" The leader was not laughing. Something in his eyes made him uncomfortable. He had been a criminal for 20 years, and he knew danger when he saw it. But his pride was stronger than his instincts. "You are giving us a warning," he said. "Little female, do you know who I am? I have killed 30 beings on this station. I have fought soldiers and hunters and killers. You are nothing." Stopped walking. She was 3 meters away from him, close enough. "I know who you are," she said. "I read your file. You are a bully. You hurt people who cannot fight back. You have never faced someone who was trained for real combat. Someone who grew up on a world where everything was trying to kill her." His eyes narrowed. "What world?" "Earth." Laughed again, but it was forced. "The primitive world, the one with the strange weather. I have heard of it. A weak planet full of weak creatures." "No," his voice was soft. "Of the deadliest planet in this galaxy, and I am its daughter." She looked at each of them in turn. Her eyes were dark and steady. No fear, no anger, just calm certainty. "This is my warning," she said. "My only warning. Walk away now and you will be fine. Stay and I will hurt you badly. And then I will find your friends, and I will hurt them too, until there is no one left on this station who will dare to threaten my people." For a moment, nobody moved. The corridor was silent except for the hum of the lights. Then drew his knife. It was a big knife, curved and sharp, made for killing. He lunged at with speed that surprised most of his victims. Was faster. She moved like water flowing around a stone. His knife cut empty air. Was beside him now, her hand on his wrist. She twisted, and the knife fell from his fingers. She twisted again and screamed as his elbow broke with a sound like a branch snapping. The other attacked. They came at her together, 4 of them, with knives and clubs and claws. Did not stop moving. She ducked under a club, kicked the knee of its owner. The knee bent the wrong way and fell. She caught another's arm as he swung a knife, turned his own momentum against him, sent him crashing into the wall. Her elbow found the throat of the third. Her foot found the face of the fourth. 30 seconds, that was all it took. When it was over, 5 lay on the deck. 2 were unconscious. 2 were moaning in pain, their bones broken. Was on his knees, his arm hanging at a wrong angle, his face twisted with shock and pain. Was not even breathing hard. She had not drawn a weapon. She had used only her body, only the skills that Earth had taught her. The same skills that every human child learned from the moment they could walk, the skills of survival. She walked to and stood over him. "I warned you," she said quietly. "You did not listen. Now your arm is broken and your gang is finished. Tell everyone in the free zone what happened here. Tell them that the humans are not prey. Tell them that Earth does not raise victims." She reached down and picked up his fallen knife. She looked at it for a moment, then broke it in half with her bare hands. The metal shattered like glass. Stared at her with new eyes. For the first time in his life, he understood what real fear was. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Appeared, followed by 2 station guards. The little purple alien stopped and stared at the scene. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. "There was an incident," said calmly. "These individuals attacked a member of our delegation. I stopped them." Looked at the broken. He looked at, standing small and still among them. He looked at the shattered knife on the floor. You did this," he whispered, "alone, unarmed." "Yes." Had no words. He had seen fight before. They were strong and vicious and dangerous. And this small human female had destroyed 5 of them in seconds. The guards took the away, helped to her feet. "Are you hurt?" asked. Shook her head. No, I am sorry. I should not have left the quarters. No, you should not have. His voice was stern but not unkind. But you are safe now. Let us go home. As they walked back, followed them. He was quiet for a long time. Then finally he spoke. I do not understand, he said. How did you do that? Your species is supposed to be weak. Our scientists say you are fragile, your bones break, your skin tears. You cannot survive in vacuum or extreme temperatures. You are supposed to be weak. Looked at him. Your scientists are wrong. They measured our weaknesses, but they did not understand our strengths. Yes, we can be hurt. Yes, we can die, but so can everything. The difference is that we know how to fight. We have been fighting since we first stood upright on our deadly world, fighting the weather, fighting the predators, fighting the diseases, fighting each other. She stopped at the door to their quarters. We are not weak. We are survivors. And survivors do not lose to bullies who have never known real danger. That night, word spread through the free zone. The told stories about the human woman who moved like lightning and hit like a meteor. The stories grew with each telling. By morning, every criminal on the lower levels had heard the message. The humans were not prey. The humans were not weak. The humans were something new, something dangerous. And they had given their first warning. The syndicate did not forget. They did not forgive. Was a small leader, a street boss with a few dozen fighters, but above him was someone bigger, someone who controlled all the crime on Prime. His name was, and he had built his empire on fear and violence. When heard what happened to, he was not angry, he was curious. One human female did this, he asked, unarmed. Yes, Lord, said the messenger. His arm is broken in 3 places. 2 of his men may never walk again. Sat in his throne, a massive chair made of metal and bone. He was old with gray scales and scars that covered his body. His eyes were cold and calculating. Interesting, he said, very interesting. He had heard of humans, everyone had, a primitive species from a distant world just learning to walk among the stars. The galactic community treated them like children, weak, ignorant, and harmless. But weak creatures did not destroy 5 in 30 seconds. Weak creatures did not break metal knives with their bare hands. Made a decision. The human woman was dangerous. She had embarrassed his organization. She had shown that they could be beaten. She needed to die. But more than that, all the humans needed to die. They needed to be an example, a message to everyone on the station that power was absolute. He called his lieutenants together. We attack tonight, he said, all of them, and we make it look like an accident. While planned his attack, the human delegation tried to continue their mission. Ambassador finally got his meeting with the High Council. The council chamber was beautiful, with high ceilings and walls of white crystal. 7 elders sat on floating chairs, looking down at the humans with ancient, tired eyes. The leader was elder. He was the oldest had ever seen, with silver skin that was almost white and eyes that seemed to hold 10,000 years of history. So said, you are the humans, the children of Earth. We are, replied, and we come with open hands and hopeful hearts. Studied him for a long moment. I have read about your world, a harsh place, unstable geology, extreme weather, primitive wildlife. It is remarkable that intelligent life evolved there at all. We are survivors, said. It is what we do. Yes, we have heard, glanced at, who stood quietly behind the ambassador. We have also heard about an incident in the lower levels. One of your people fought several. She defended a member of our delegation who was attacked, explained. It was self-defense. Self-defense, repeated the word slowly. They are warriors. They have fought in a dozen wars. They are larger, stronger, and more experienced than any human. Yet one of your people defeated 5 of them without weapons. He leaned forward. How is this possible, Ambassador? Our scientists tell us that humans are among the weakest sentient species in the galaxy. Your bones are fragile. Your senses are limited. You cannot see in the dark or hear high frequencies. You require food and water and rest more often than any species we know. By all logic, you should not be able to survive a fight with a single, let alone five. Opened his mouth to respond, but spoke first. Your scientists measured the wrong things. The council turned to look at her. Who was standing in the corner made a small sound of alarm. Humans were not supposed to address the council without permission. But raised his hand. Let her speak. I would hear what the girl has to say. Stepped forward. She was small in that great chamber, surrounded by ancient beings who had ruled their corner of the galaxy but she was not intimidated. You are right, she said. Our bones break, our skin tears. We are sensitive to temperature and pressure and radiation. If you only looked at our bodies, you would think we are weak. She paused. But you did not look at our world. Earth is a planet where the ground opens and swallows cities, where the sky fills with fire and poison, where the water rises up and drowns entire nations, where diseases kill millions in a single year, where every animal, every plant, every microorganism is either hunting you or fighting you or trying to infect you. The council was silent. Other species evolved on gentle worlds, continued. Worlds that gave them everything they needed. They never had to struggle. They never had to fight. They never had to watch their children die and keep going anyway. Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. Humans did. For millions of years, Earth tried to kill us, and we refused to die. We learned to predict earthquakes. We learned to survive hurricanes. We learned to cure diseases that other species would have surrendered to. We learned to work together because alone we were weak. Together we were unstoppable. She looked directly at Elder. That is what your scientists missed. They measured our bodies, but they did not measure our spirits. They saw our weakness, but they did not see our will. They counted our limitations, but they did not count our determination. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then nodded slowly. You make an interesting argument, child of Earth. I will consider it. The meeting ended without an agreement, but something had changed. They looked at the humans differently now. There was less contempt, more curiosity, maybe even a little respect. But the day was not over. That night when the station's lights dimmed for the sleep cycle, attack began. There was no warning. The first sign was the ventilation system shutting down. Then the lights went out. Then the doors locked. The humans were trapped. Woke instantly. She had been sleeping in her clothes, her body alert even in rest. She felt the change in air pressure. She heard the mechanical locks clicking into place. Everyone up, she shouted, now. The delegation scrambled out of their beds. In the darkness, they found each other by voice and touch. What is happening? Asked, her voice frightened. Attack, said. They are trying to suffocate us. The air was already growing thin. Without ventilation, the carbon dioxide was building up. In an hour, maybe less, they would lose consciousness. In 2 hours, they would be dead. Pulled at the door, it did not move. We are sealed in. Checked her communicator. No signal, they are jamming us. Pressed her hand against the wall. The attackers have bypassed the main controls. They have access to the station's systems. His voice was steady but concerned. Can we survive this? Thought quickly. Earth humans had evolved at high altitudes, in thin air, in places where oxygen was scarce. They had carried those genes forward. They could survive longer than most species in low oxygen, but not forever. We have maybe 2 hours, she said. Maybe 3. We need to find a way out. How? Asked. The doors are locked, the walls are solid metal. Turn 2. You are an engineer. Can you open the doors? Was already at the control panel, her fingers working in the darkness. Not without power. They have cut everything. Then we make our own power. Reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a personal light, standard equipment for security officers. She twisted it, and a soft glow filled the room. Humans invented fire, she said. We have always found ways to bring light into the darkness. Nodded, she took the light and examined the control panel. I need parts, wires, metal, something to conduct electricity. The delegation scattered, searching the room, broke a chair and extracted metal pieces, found wires in the broken light fixtures, gave up her medical equipment, sacrificing needles and sensors. Worked fast. She had grown up in a place where resources were scarce and creativity was survival. On Earth, engineers did not wait for perfect conditions. They made do with what they had. 15 minutes later, she had built something. It was ugly, a mess of wires and metal and hope, but it was functional. Stand back, she said. She touched two wires together, sparks flew. There was a hum of power. The door shuddered. Again, said. Touch the wires again. More sparks, more power. The door shuddered again, and this time it opened a few centimeters. And grabbed the edge and pulled. Metal screamed against metal. Slowly, painfully, the door opened. Fresh air flooded in. The delegation gasped with relief. But did not relax. She looked out into the corridor. It was dark, but she could hear footsteps, distant voices. The enemy was coming. We are not safe yet, she said. They sealed us in because they wanted us dead. When they find out we escaped, they will try again. Looked at her. What do you suggest? His eyes were hard. I suggest we stop waiting for them to kill us. I suggest we take the fight to them. We are diplomats, protested, not soldiers. On Earth, said quietly, everyone is a soldier. We just do not always carry guns. She turned to the delegation. These were not warriors. They were a translator, an engineer, a doctor, a communicator, a pilot. But they were also humans. They carried 10 million years of survival in their blood. They carried the spirit of every ancestor who had faced death and refused to surrender. We are going to find the people who did this, said, and we are going to make sure they never try again. One by one, the delegation nodded. Fear was in their eyes, but also something else, something that the galaxy did not understand yet. Determination, stubborn, unbreakable human determination. The children of Earth were tired of being underestimated. It was time to show the galaxy what it truly produced. The human delegation moved through the dark corridors like shadows, led the way, her senses sharp, her movements silent. Behind her came the others, learning quickly how to move without making sound. On Earth, humans had hunted for millions of years. They had tracked animals across plains and through forests, through deserts and over mountains. The knowledge was in their blood. It came back to them now when they needed it most. Moved beside, he had grown up hunting deer and boar in the Korean mountains. He knew how to read tracks, how to predict movement, how to become invisible in the wilderness. The station was not a forest, but the principles were the same. 20 meters ahead, he whispered. 2 guards, they are nervous. Nodded, she had heard them too. Their scales scraped against the metal floor. Their breathing was quick and uneven. They were not expecting the humans to escape. She gestured to the others. Wait, stay silent, let me handle this. The guards were armed with energy pistols and shock sticks. They stood at an intersection, watching the corridors with worried eyes. You think they are dead yet? One of them asked. Said 2 hours, the other replied. It has been 90 minutes, should be soon. They never saw coming. She moved out of the darkness like a ghost. Her hand covered the first guard's mouth. Her other hand pressed a point on his neck and he went limp. Before the second guard could react, she was on him, her arm around his throat, squeezing until he lost consciousness. Both guards fell without making a sound. Ran forward and took their weapons. She checked the energy pistols, familiarizing herself with the alien technology. On Earth, she had been a military pilot before becoming a civilian. She knew weapons. These will help, she said. Examine the unconscious guards. They will wake up in a few hours. No permanent damage. Nodded. She did not want to kill unless she had to, but she would do whatever was necessary to protect her people. They continued moving, had memorized the station's layout, and she guided them through maintenance corridors and service tunnels. The station's designers had never imagined that someone would use these passages for an assault. They were meant for technicians and robots, not warriors. But humans were adaptable. That was their greatest strength. After 20 minutes, they reached territory. It was a section of the station that had been converted into a fortress. Metal barricades blocked the corridors. Guards patrolled every entrance. Camera drones floated through the air, watching for intruders. Studied the defenses. They were impressive by galactic standards, but she had seen worse. On Earth, humans had built castles and fortresses for thousands of years. They had also learned how to break them. She whispered, "Can you disable the cameras? Examine the drones. Not without equipment, but I can distract them." She pulled a small device from her pocket. It was a maintenance tool designed for testing electrical systems. She modified it quickly, using techniques she had learned in university. Then she threw it toward the nearest camera drone. The device emitted a pulse of static. The drone spun in confusion, its sensors overwhelmed. Other drones moved to investigate. In that moment of distraction, the humans moved forward. They slipped past the first barricade, then the second, led them through shadows using every bit of cover. Despite her fear, moved silently, her translator training giving her good body control. They reached the central chamber. It was a large room filled with, sat on his throne at the far end, surrounded by his lieutenants. Weapons hung on the walls. Guards stood at every door. There were at least 50 of them, 50 armed against 7 humans. Any other species would have retreated. Any other species would have recognized the impossible odds. But humans were not any other species. Stepped into the room. The reaction was immediate. Guards shouted. Weapons were raised. Leaned forward on his throne, his cold eyes fixed on the human woman who dared to enter his domain. "You," he said, "you are the one who broke's arm." "Yes." Laughed. It was a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "You escaped my trap, impressive but foolish. You have walked into my home surrounded by my soldiers. You are going to die here, human." Did not answer immediately. She looked around the room, counting the guards, measuring the distances, calculating the angles. Behind her, the other humans spread out slightly, each finding their position. Then she spoke. "I gave your people a warning 3 days ago. They did not listen. Tonight you tried to kill my friends. You failed. So I have come to give you your second warning." She paused. "This is your last chance. You can surrender now. You can leave this station and never return. Your syndicate can disappear tonight and nobody else has to get hurt." The room was silent for a moment. Then they started laughing. 50 voices, laughing at the tiny human woman who stood alone and unarmed in the middle of their army. Smiled. "Your second warning. Little creature, you stand in my throne room, surrounded by my warriors, and you give me a warning." He stood up from his throne. He was old but still powerful, still dangerous. "I have conquered worlds," he said. "I have crushed armies. I have killed beings that you cannot imagine, and you think you can threaten me." His expression did not change. "I am not threatening you," she said quietly. "I am telling you what will happen. You can surrender or you can learn what it actually produces." Smile faded. Something in her voice made him uncomfortable, something in her eyes. He had seen many enemies. Some were brave, some were foolish, some were insane. This human was none of those things. She was calm, patient, certain. She was not bluffing. She actually believed she could win. "Kill them," ordered. They attacked. What happened next would become legend on Prime. Stories would be told for generations about the battle in his throne room, about the 7 humans who faced 50 and refused to lose. Moved first, She was a blur of motion, faster than any had ever seen. She ducked under the first attack, redirected the second, struck with precision that came from a lifetime of training. One guard fell, then another, then another. Fought with the instincts of a hunter. He moved between enemies like wind through trees. His hands found pressure points, weak spots, vulnerable angles. 3 went down before they understood what was happening. Used the captured weapons with deadly accuracy. On Earth, she had trained as a fighter pilot, her reflexes sharpened by flying through storms at impossible speeds. Now those reflexes let her dodge energy blasts that should have been too fast to avoid. Her shots found their targets every time. Had turned the maintenance tools into weapons. She disrupted power systems, disabled weapons, created chaos. The technology turned against its owners. Fought with medical precision. She knew where the nerves were, where the arteries ran, where the body was weakest. Her strikes were not powerful, but they did not need to be. They hit exactly where they needed to hit. Was not a fighter, but she was brave. She helped the others, distracted enemies, created openings. She screamed war cries that she had heard in old Korean dramas, and somehow they worked. Stood in the center, coordinating. He called out warnings, directed movements, kept the team together. Diplomacy had taught him to read situations, to understand people, to anticipate actions. Now he used those skills for war. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, the throne room was quiet. Lay scattered across the floor, unconscious or groaning in pain. Weapons were broken. Barricades were destroyed. The 7 humans stood in the center of the room, barely breathing hard. Stood over, the old warlord lay on his back, his weapon shattered, his guards defeated. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. "I warned you," said. "You did not listen." Stared up at her. "What are you?" he whispered. "You are not just humans, you cannot be. No species could do what you just did." "We are humans," replied. "Nothing more, nothing less. We are the children of a world that never stopped trying to kill us, and we survived." She knelt beside him. "I told you that you could surrender or you could learn what a produces. Now you know, we produce survivors, we produce fighters, we produce people who never give up, never back down, never accept defeat." She stood. "Your syndicate is finished. Your power is gone. If you ever threaten my people again, I will not give another warning. I will simply end you." Footsteps echoed in the corridor, appeared in the doorway, followed by station security and ambassador. They stopped, staring at the scene. 50 defeated, 7 humans victorious. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Looked at with something like awe. "You," he managed, "you actually did it." Walked toward them. She was covered in dust and sweat, but her eyes were clear. She stopped in front of Ambassador. "We warned them," she said simply. "They did not listen." Had no response. For the first time in his long career, he was completely speechless. The second warning had been delivered, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The news spread across Prime like fire through dry grass. By morning, every being on the station had heard the story. 7 humans had defeated 50 warriors. A single human woman had broken the power of the most dangerous crime syndicate in the free zone. The stories grew with each telling. Some said had fought 100 enemies. Some said she had used strange human magic. Some said humans were not really alive, but some kind of biological weapon created in a laboratory. But the truth was stranger than any of the stories. The truth was that humans were exactly what they appeared to be: soft, fragile, mortal, and absolutely, terrifyingly dangerous. The High Council called an emergency meeting. This time, the humans were not kept waiting. They were escorted to the chamber with honor, with respect. Guards saluted them. Officials bowed their heads. Elder sat on his floating chair, his ancient eyes studying the human delegation. He looked tired. He looked thoughtful. He looked perhaps a little afraid. I have lived for 10,000 years, he said. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed wars and plagues and disasters. I thought I understood the galaxy. He paused. I was wrong. Ambassador stepped forward. Elder, we did not come here to cause trouble. We came in peace, seeking friendship. The violence was not our choice. I know, raised his hand. You defended yourselves. You warned your enemies and they did not listen. That is not aggression, that is survival. He turned to, you child of Earth, step forward. Walk to the center of the chamber. She was still wearing her gray uniform, now torn and dusty from the battle. But she stood straight, her dark eyes meeting the elder's gaze without fear. Tell me about your world, said. Not the statistics, not the numbers. Tell me what it was like to grow up there. Was quiet for a moment, remembering. Earth is beautiful, she said. The most beautiful world I have ever seen. We have mountains that touch the clouds, oceans that stretch beyond the horizon, forests so thick that sunlight barely reaches the ground. She paused. But Earth is also dangerous. I grew up near the sea. Every year typhoons would come, storms so powerful that they could destroy cities. We would prepare for months, building shelters, storing food, making plans. And then the storm would hit and we would just survive, hold on to each other, wait for it to pass, and when it was over we would rebuild. Listened in silence. When I was 8 years old, continued, there was an earthquake. The ground shook so hard that buildings fell. People died. My grandmother died. I was trapped under rubble for 2 days before rescuers found me. I learned something in those 2 days. I learned that fear does not help. I learned that crying does not help. The only thing that helps is not giving up. She looked around the council chamber. Every human has a story like mine. Every human has faced something that should have killed them. And every human has survived. That is what we are, survivors. We do not expect the universe to be kind to us. We do not expect help to come. We expect to struggle, to suffer, to fight. And we expect to win anyway. The council was silent. Even the servants and guards stood still, listening. Elder nodded slowly. I understand now. Your bodies are fragile, but your spirits are not. Your world broke you again and again, and you just kept getting back up. Yes. And that is why you are dangerous. Not because of your strength, but because of your will. You simply refuse to accept defeat. Smiled slightly. We call it stubbornness. It is a common human trait. Laughed. It was a dry, ancient sound, but genuine. Stubbornness, yes, I think I understand. He turned to the other council members. They whispered among themselves, their voices too low to hear. Then, one by one, they nodded. Face the humans again. The council has made a decision. Earth is hereby recognized as a sovereign. This is a designation we have never granted before. It means that your world is not a primitive colony, but a unique environment that produces a unique species. It means that humans will be treated with the respect and caution that your nature deserves. Ambassador bowed deeply. Thank you, Elder. This is more than we hoped for. Do not thank me yet, said. This designation comes with responsibilities. Other species will be watching you now. They will be curious. Some will be afraid. You must prove that humans can be trusted as well as feared. Nodded, we understand, and we will prove it. The meeting ended with agreements signed and hands shaken. Trade deals were approved. Cultural exchanges were planned. For the first time, humans were welcomed into the galactic community as equals. After the meeting approached in the corridor, the little purple alien had changed since she first met him. He was less nervous now, more curious. I have been assigned as permanent liaison to the human delegation, he said. It is an honor that I did not expect. Why? Asked. Because I understand you now, at least I understand you better than most. Looked at her with his large, worried eyes. When I first met you, I thought you were primitives. I thought you were weak and confused and lost. Now I know the truth. You were never lost. You always knew exactly what you were doing. Smiled, we were just waiting, watching, learning. That is another human trait. We observe before we act. We understand before we fight. Nodded, I have studied your world. I have read about your history, the wars, the disasters, the plagues. I do not understand how you survived all of that, how you kept going when everything was against you. Thought about the question. It was a question she had asked herself many times. I think, she said slowly, it is because we love our world, even when it hurts us, even when it kills us. We love it anyway. Earth is our mother, and a mother's love is not always gentle. Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it is cruel, but it makes us stronger. It makes us who we are. She looked out the station's viewport. Stars sparkled in the darkness, millions of them, countless worlds waiting to be discovered. And now we are out here, she continued. Among the stars, meeting new species, facing new challenges. It is exciting. It is terrifying, but it is also familiar. Because for humans, every day is a challenge. Every day is a fight. That is just how we live. Was quiet for a long moment. I think, he said finally, that the galaxy is about to change. Because of you, because of all of you. Maybe, agreed. But change is not always bad. Sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes it is beautiful. She turned away from the viewport and looked at her team. Was talking with officials, his gentle smile back in place. Was practicing alien languages with a group of curious young beings. Was explaining human engineering to a crowd of fascinated technicians. Was helping treat minor injuries from the battle, her kindness earning her respect. Was teaching survivors about hunting, turning enemies into friends. Was showing off human reflexes to a group of impressed pilots. They were not just diplomats anymore. They were ambassadors in the truest sense. They were showing the galaxy what humans could be. And was proud of them. The next week passed quickly. The human delegation prepared to return to Earth. They had accomplished more than they had dreamed. Trade agreements, scientific partnerships, military understandings. Humanity had taken its first real step into the galactic community. On their last night stood at the viewport again. The station was quiet. Most beings were asleep, but she did not need much sleep. Earth had taught her to survive on less. Footsteps approached behind her. It was Elder. He walked slowly, his ancient body tired after a long day. You are leaving tomorrow, he said. It was not a question. Yes. Will you return? Nodded. I will. This is just the beginning. There is so much more to learn, so much more to discover, so many more beings to meet. Stood beside her, looking out at the stars. I am afraid, he admitted quietly. Not of you personally, but of what you represent. Humans are chaos. You are unpredictable. You do not follow the rules that other species follow. You make your own rules. You change everything you touch. Considered his words. That is true, she said. But is that bad? The galaxy has been the same for a long time. Maybe it needs to change. Maybe it needs chaos. Smiled slightly. Perhaps that is exactly what we need. They stood in silence, two beings from different worlds, looking out at the infinite darkness together. Take care of yourself, child of Earth, said finally, and take care of your people. The galaxy is watching now. Everyone is watching. Good, said. Let them watch. Let them see what we can do. Let them understand what a truly produces. She turned to the elder one last time. We warned them once. We warned them twice. And now they understand. But this is not the end. This is not even the beginning. This is just the first chapter of a very long story. She smiled, and her smile was warm and fierce and human. And the galaxy is going to find out what happens when children step beyond their world. What happens when survivors become explorers. What happens when fighters become friends. Looked at her for a long moment, then he nodded. I believe, he said softly, that it will be magnificent. Turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there Earth was waiting. Home was waiting. But so were 1,000 other worlds, 1,000 other adventures, 1,000 other challenges. She was ready. They all were. Because they were human, and humans never stopped surviving, never stopped fighting, never stopped growing. The second warning had been delivered. The galaxy had listened. Now it was time to show them what came next.